All right, since it's nearly time, I think it's the right moment to start since we've seen already some people have joined us. So, as you may have already seen, we are live once again with our usual Wednesday afternoon webinar. Hello, everyone. I'm Roxana Dude, and on behalf of Solvay Executive Education, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 10th webinar in our series, Leading in Times of Uncertainty. We really appreciate your taking the time to join us here today for our last encounter. Now, a special welcome back to all those of you who have already joined us on our previous 9 webinars. As you know, this series has united topics whose relevance we believe is not tied only to the COVID-19 pandemic and its impacts, but most importantly, continues beyond the immediate time horizon of the crisis. Therefore, our discussions so far have ranged from personal, team and strategic leadership to risk management and organizational resilience to innovation, digital transformation, sustainable business models. It has been our immense pleasure to welcome each session guest speakers who are experts in their field, as well as trainers, professors, coaches, and facilitators. So once again, I would like to thank you for imparting your knowledge and experience with us, John Metzeler, Omar Mohout, Michael Malone, Laurent Bouty, Bruno Wattenberg, Valérie Van Geel, Brigitte Lipschutz, Jean-Pierre Artz, and Susan West. I would also like to thank the permanent host of this series and my partner in crime. I'm speaking here of Benjamin Beeckmans, Professor of Entrepreneurship and Innovation and Director of the company-specific programs at Solvay Executive Education. And lastly, a big thank you to Stephanie Verret and to Gregory Dendas, our colleagues whose technical, marketing, and moral support behind the scenes have helped us work the magic. In case you have not managed to attend any of our previous webinars or would like to revisit some of their highlights, then a link to the video recording of each webinar was sent by email the day after each session. And of course, additionally, you can request to view it on our webpage. And as always, of course, a special thank you to our partners who spread the news of the webinars in their networks. And I'm speaking here of VOCA, Vlaams Netwerk van Ondernemingen, BESI, and of course, the Paper Jam Business Club in the Duchy of Luxembourg. Now, I will like to take advantage of the next couple of minutes to introduce you to of course, the rules of engagement, a bit of housekeeping rules for the last time. Now, this webinar, as the previous ones, will be approximately 60 minutes. It might vary a bit, a function of the number of questions we will receive, and we hope we will receive quite a few. Attendees' microphones and cameras are automatically turned off. This session is also recorded and will be shared through an automatic email 24 hours after the event. Please use the Q&A feature to ask questions, and we will address them, of course, during the webinar. If you encounter any technical issues or want to pass a message that is not actual question or comment related to the content of the webinar, please use the chat to contact me directly. Lastly, but definitely not least, please participate in our polls, as always. We appreciate your involvement and your feedback. And additionally, our alumni invite their members to a series of webinars and roundtable discussions that are organized exclusively for them in collaboration with us. So please make sure to check their event page for more information about the specific topics. As you can see, their next webinar is quite interesting. It boasts a topic in 16 years at Microsoft, a story of a smooth revolution. Sounds intriguing, so make sure to check it out. And lastly, we'd like to extend an invitation to all those interested in further exploring the facets of personal, team, and strategic leadership to have a look at the summer camp that we're organizing at the end of August. You will find back some of the speakers you have already encountered during our webinars, as well as many more. And of course, as always, you are welcome to visit our webpage and check out our portfolio of educational programs in case you are in search of more training ideas. And now, the time has come to tackle our final topic, the rise of the project economy, with again one of my favorite trainers and speakers ever, whose name and reputation I'm sure many of you are already familiar with. Benjamin, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our live webinar series for an exceptional session tonight with the one and only Antonio Nieto-Rodriguez. Tonight for our last live webinar for the season. Yeah, I'm a bit sad, but it's already the last one of the season. Let's discuss the end of job description and the rise of project economy in the future, and whenever that future will be, and that could be quite close. In the future, will we have stable job function, or will our career be a succession of job function that evolve with the ever-changing business models? That might call for a radical transformation when it comes to skill building and lifelong learning. So let's see how we can shape our future. But let me first introduce our guest speaker for tonight. Antonio, you are a world-class expert in project management and successful transformation project. Author of several books, including the famous Project Manifesto, recipient of numerous awards, including Thinker of the Month award by not less than Thinkers 50. Some say you are one of the most influential management thinker in this world. Yourself, you are a global project. You're born in Madrid, educated in Germany, Mexico, Italy, United States. You have an MBA from London Business School. You're fluent in 5 languages. You want my opinion? It's not a bad start. Today, your work focused on advising senior leaders and students, also at the Solvay Business School, on how to lead transformational change and create a culture that strives for execution, excellence, and collaboration. Antonio, thank you for being with us tonight. I feel we'll all be transformed after listening to you. So without further ado, let's find out more about this new silent disruption called the project economy. Antonio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you for such a kind introduction, the best I've ever heard. Thank you. And thank you, Roxana, for the invitation to be here on your last series of webinars. I've been following them. Fantastic way to spend some time outside the home working. So thank you for taking care of this. Welcome to everybody. It's a pleasure to be here this Wednesday afternoon. So I'm happy to be able to talk a bit about this big disruption that is impacting everybody. Every organization, every individual is being hit by this, what I call the project revolution. So I have a few slides, some polls that we're going to be doing to get a bit of your input. Let me just share the slides and we get started. So the introduction has been done. And we're starting just by a first poll. So what is your experience in terms of projects? How often do you manage? Have you managed them? You have here
the poll has popped up.
It's already up? Okay.
It is already up and the votes are coming in rather fast. Take your time.
Very good. I see people are already trained on this.
After 9 encounters, yes.
Yeah.
And enjoy it every time, we must admit. So here they are. We're over 70% in votes. We hope to have a few more. It's close to, we're over 80, which is excellent. Just a couple of more seconds. And then I'm going to end my poll right now. And let's see the results.
Let's see the results.
Here they are, Antonio.
So the majority, half of you manage projects half of my time, which is not a big surprise.
Indeed.
Because we always do projects on top of something else, right? We know that, Roxana, Benjamin. I manage projects full-time, 35%. I'm sure we would have done this poll a few years ago, we wouldn't have that many. So there's a transition into that more project management, project lead roles full-time. And I hardly ever in my career so far, that is possible, 15%. Yeah, it will take time while you get the responsibility, but it makes sense. 50% is a good number. And nobody has never managed a project, which again makes the point.
I'm going to stop sharing the
Thank you for
results.
that brief setting of your experience. So we're ready to move to the next slide. Can I close the poll?
Absolutely. I have already stopped sharing the results and it only shows for you now, so you can simply close it.
Okay, we go. So half of you are in this place. So let me just quickly set the context. If you look at the way of work, and let's assume this is one company that has been there for 100 years. There's not many left, but let's imagine we're talking about Philips or something that we know has been there. 80 years ago, there were not many people working in what I call projects. Most of the people working on operations, or we call it run the business. If you're in banking, we call it run the bank. About maybe you'll have one project every year and a few people working on that project. The big majority of the employees were working on day-to-day activities. What are day-to-day activities? Production, services, finance, supply chain, the traditional departments that you will see in any organization, the supply chain. And projects are to change, to improve, to get better, to transform, to merge companies, to come out of a crisis. So what you see is that over years, over 100 years, 80 years, the majority of management thinking and consulting work has been done on how can we do the blue part, the business as usual, faster, cheaper, more automated, less people, more volumes, and so on. So they've achieved that. We've achieved to have a very, very efficient organization to the point that sometimes you don't even need people. But what happens with the type of work, it shifts into more project-based work. So that's what happens. That's where we're many people in between today. There's a few project managers, project leaders, 100% dedicated to their job, but most of the people are, we have a run the business job, we are a position somewhere in finance, in marketing, and such. On top of that, they ask us to do one project, then two, then three, then four, so it's hard to balance. So that's the situation which creates a lot of tensions in organization is where do we put the efforts? Where do we put our best resources? So how do we reward people? Do we reward them on the blue results, on the blue line, or do we reward them on the change and transformation? So what you see is a lot of silo mentality. We tend to protect our team or department. That's it, our project, and we don't share with others because my KPIs is on my department. Organizations work on what's urgent, what's the next deadline. Next Friday, let's focus on that. Let's drop everything. So there's very few people working on the long term. What you see is that there's so many goals in companies that you get lost. So now very few people understand the strategy of their companies. That's a true fact. They cannot express it because we make it very complicated or we spread too thin. We want to play in telecom. We want to play in banking. We want to play in education. So all over the place. And that's a thing that we're going to see a bit later. Too many projects. It's very easy to see companies nowadays that they have more projects than people. I'm just shocked when I go to a company, they have 600 employees and they have 800 projects on top of their day-to-day work. So how can you manage? Everything becomes a project. They call projects almost everything. They make very easy to start projects, but they never finish projects. So it's just creating an overload of clutter of projects. And that's very, very disappointing in terms of employee engagement. You see that as well. So that's the consequences of this tension and friction between day-to-day activities and change. But there's one thing which is just going to make things worse or better, depends how you see it, is as soon as you have artificial intelligence and robots as a main part of any business in any industry, that blue part, the day-to-day, the operations is going to almost disappear. Let's not be radical. Let's say 20% will still be done by humans, but the big majority is going to be taken up. You see that in banking today. If you go to bank, most of the things are done by machines, telecom, technology, and you have people mostly working in projects. So the shift is just going to go much faster than what we see. So two additional elements of the project economy. The way the world works, if there's a crisis, and we just experienced a huge crisis, there's projects to rebuild. So this is more the macro picture on the project economy. We can expect millions of projects just to recover from the crisis. There were already big plans before the crisis, like you see here, a statistic from McKinsey, only on infrastructure, 57 trillion will be spent on projects on infrastructure in 10 years. That means a lot of projects. On the other side, and Benjamin was talking about that, all functions are moving into more the gig economy. We have careers into projects and projects and projects. So that's changing very fast to the point that some organizations, leading organizations today, for example, in the US, I heard about IBM, they're considering canceling all the job descriptions. Imagine, I suppose that all of you in this call have a job descriptions where it tells this is what we expect you to do, and these are the competencies and so on. What the companies have realized that people don't work in their job descriptions. They work on projects and initiative and change. And so companies like that, they're moving more to let's cancel all the job descriptions, 100,000 job descriptions, and move everybody to project roles. So you'll play a role in that project for 9 months, and then you move to another project where you play a different role. So it's a massive, massive change. That's what I call the end of job descriptions, and which is kind of confirmed by a research from Accenture, which also they interviewed lots of executives, about 2,000, where about 80% of them, the future of work is going to be project-based, not job functions. That's the plus, that's the blue part, that's gone, that's gone. And the last very important shift what I see is companies are also struggling to sell products. So companies like Philips, in a good year, they will sell 10 scanners for a hospital, and they will have some medical devices, but the competition is so aggressive that it's becoming more and more difficult to sell products. So Philips, for example, they're considering selling projects. What does it mean? That they find out that the local government, I don't know, in Utrecht, wants to build a hospital, especially now with the crisis. More cities wants to build hospitals. Philips will do the project. They will sell the project. They will not sell the machines. They will sell a 25-year project. They will commit to deliver the building with contractors, with partners, with ecosystems. They will introduce of course, their products, but they will sell 25 years instead of 10 products per year. So this can be a huge, huge disruption for companies that are selling products. And let me just to finish, give you another example. If you go to another company that sells product, Nike, if you go to a Nike shop, you will find products, shoes and shoes and shoes. But yeah, how many shoes do you buy per year? Maybe one every 2 years? If Nike would use the same approach, let's say, let's stop selling products, let's sell projects. In the future, I could see a shop of Nike with pictures, and you will go for the Marathon of New York, Mount Kilimanjaro, climbing or trekking in South Africa, and Nike will commit with you for 2 years to train you. Products, of course, you'll get the shoes and the sneakers, but you will engage with Nike for 2 years, not just once every 2 years, for 2 years to make your dream happen. So that's another big disruption that I see, Benjamin, Roxanne. So lots of things happening. And just to finish this introduction section, setting the context, it's by research. You count the number of projects that you're running in your company, half of them will fail. Okay, it's a bit disappointed. You can see it as an opportunity. You can see it as an opportunity to learn, to reduce the amount of projects, and you will do better in the others. Soon you'll have more projects and employees if we don't take action, if we really don't have some discipline. And when we start projects, I always say, never start a project personally also in your personal life if you don't finish one or stop one. Better finish 2 and stop 2. That gives you more capacity too. All your employees will be working in projects part-time, but this is the reality. I'm training some companies where everybody has to be trained, not only the project managers. Everybody has to have some basic skills. And for me, a big area where we need to improve is the senior leaders. Senior leaders still don't see project management as something strategic or project leadership. It's something for engineers, for IT people. This is not for me. I prefer to manage the blue part of the business. That I know. We have KPIs. We have reporting every month. The projects, that's very uncertain. I have no clue what's going on. It's a bit messy. It requires a lot of leadership and change management. I'm more for the concrete part. But leaders have to play a huge role. And you can see the difference. When companies have leaders who really commit to a project and they're doing the role, it plays a huge role. So that's a bit the setting of the scene. Benjamin, Roxana, don't know if you want to comment.
Well, the question I have is are the leaders prepared to change? I mean, you telling us about the consequences. Are they prepared? Are we prepared for that?
I would say no, Benjamin, no, because it's hardly, you will not see, for example, project management in an MBA course. I think Solvay is one of the few ones.
Indeed.
I researched the top 100 in the world, and only 2 were teaching project management as a core competency. The project manager CEO that I've seen, they have track record in projects. They've been in consulting McKinsey for 5 years, or BCG or PwC, so they understand. But the majority, I would say 95%, 90%, no. So for me, it's a great question because there is a big room for improvement there. They are not prepared, absolutely not.
Okay, well, that's that's a reason why we need to listen to you carefully, so we get prepared for what's coming up next.
Exactly. So let me go to the next poll. Roxanne, if you can.
Absolutely. I was actually wondering, because this is something that you and I and many other project managers are confronted with, and it's always a very interesting question. Why do so many projects fail? And we'd like you to focus on your top 3 of what you see there.
Yeah.
So please take the time to vote. We know there are quite a few choices, so take the time. Do not feel rushed. So
No.
Constantly changing project scope, insufficient allocation of resources, project management comes on top of my job, too many ongoing projects, the lack of senior management support and understanding of the role, sponsorship. And you have there also poor accountability on project delivery. And if there's anything else, just drop it in the chat and we'll address it. So we have votes coming in over 60%.
Very interesting.
There's some quite close ones that we already see. Antonio, I'm going to wait for a couple more seconds because we're nearly 80% of our respondents, and that's always a nice spread. And then I'll close and we'll have a look. Yes. All right. Still coming in.
Nice.
Very nice. Thank you very much. I will close the voting now. And here are the results. Well.
Nice. It's just what they answer our question, Benjamin. Lack of senior management support, understanding of the role. And I think, according to my research, a project which has a strong project management sponsor has 30–40% more chances to be successful. But senior leaders don't understand that sponsorship is not about having, the more sponsorship projects that you do, the more important you are, and which is a bit like, well, I'm sponsoring 35 projects, I'm so important. I prefer you sponsor 1 or 2 and you do it right than having too many. And actually
Indeed.
Some CEOs tell me that actually I sponsor 20 projects, Antonio. The 2 only that I'm really busy, I'm participating in the meeting, I take this, they've been well. They're very difficult, but it went well. The 18 others, I didn't have time and they're all a disaster.
There are a few other choices here. Well, the usual suspect.
Yeah. Insufficient allocation of resources.
Pretty much.
We're spreading too thin. It's a bit, you don't have accountability because you don't know where people are working. And you keep launching more and more projects on top of. So yeah, I think companies don't have the capacity to carry 800 projects. They don't have the capacity. They are really stretching too far. We do projects too easily. We love to start projects. That's a human nature. We're excited. So, and everybody wants that, but then people have to do them. What else do we see here? We have the constantly changing of project scope. That's a classic, and it will continue because the fast changing world and fast changing business and competition, it is normal. That's why we have some agile concepts to introduce into traditional and mix them and do better in scope changes and making sure that what we develop is still valid 6 months down the line or 12 months down the line. So that I'm not surprised. The last one I picture up here is too many projects. Again, the same.
Classic.
So thank you. It's just confirming what we're saying. Thank you very much, Roxana.
I will stop sharing the results. Antonia, I was wondering, because I see already questions coming in, and there is one that there is an observation from Hervé that says like insufficient time allocation or too many people involved, which makes it too difficult to coordinate. So that's a nuancing of one of the options that we gave. And from Hosni, a question for you, if you would like to address it now. What are the essential qualities of a good sponsor, in your opinion?
Well, I think the first one is being accessible, being present, we call it engaged, being part of the project, understanding the project. Second one is being a promoter. You know, one of the biggest challenges is competing against other projects, getting resources.
Indeed.
So it's the biggest ambassador, is persuading the senior leadership teams that this project is essential, that we need everybody to work together. The third one is taking decisions. It's about accountability. It's my project and we need to make it. Okay, I take decisions. Of course, I will engage with others. So these will be three top ones: accessible, promoter, and then decision maker.
Excellent, indeed. Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you
let us continue, and we hope for many more questions.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. It's very nice. Let me give you an example of an amazing project so that you see that it's possible. And I'll just highlight a little bit of what was done there in this project so that we can see. So this project started like this. We're starting at top secret. So imagine your boss at work comes and say, listen, we're starting this project, but it's top secret. We're not going to tell you what's the project about. We're not going to tell you who you're going to be working. What I'm going to tell you is that if you join us, you're going to work like crazy. More like during current times with coronavirus. You're going to work double as much. And there's no breaks and forget about weekends. And so who would join? Let's be honest. Anybody in this call will join. Benjamin, would you join? Roxana, would you join?
I would join.
Wow.
We joined already. We're working for Solvay, but it's all right.
You are already there.
Well, it sounds intriguing, but it might not be everyone's cuppa, indeed.
I agree. I would have very much doubt. So this project is the first iPhone. The first iPhone I researched because I wanted to know how they did projects in Apple at that time. So very, very interesting case. They call it the Project Purple. That was the secret name. And I have developed a project canvas, which is a bit like the philosophies like Alex Osterwalder and Ipignon business model canvas, the model. I create one for project management because we didn't have that. So as soon as you wanted to find out a little bit about project management, you got a book of 800 pages. So nobody that is not a professional will want to know project management because we have made it very, very complicated. It's great, but too complicated. So the canvas on the project is the same, just one page. And if you cover all these elements, 14 elements, you have much better chances to succeed. If you miss half of them, forget, stop the project. But let me just use the Project Purple, the first iPhone, to explain the story. First of all, the idea of having an iPhone was presented to Steve Jobs 2001. Steve Jobs said, wow, this is a great idea, smartphone, we're going to disrupt the industry of telecom, but it's not the right time to launch a project. We're busy with the iTunes, we're busy with the iPod. That's our main focus. So explore, learn, prototype about that new concept of smartphone, but we're not setting a project. It's too early for us, it's not the right time. It took them 3 years to say, now is the right time to start a project. This is fundamental. When you start projects, we tend to start a project straight away. We see an idea, we want to do that in our business or the competition, we call a kickoff meeting on Monday. The idea is too raw. And that's why many projects fail, is because we start them too quickly. I just wrote an article for HBR on using the S-curve for learning to decide when your project is. Most of the projects that start at the bottom of the S will have no chance to be successful. So 3 years to explore, prototype, learn, build knowledge, partnerships, and then they set up the project. It took 2.5 years to build the fund. But let's take a couple of the examples. I always talk about the purpose of a project. They start with the why for the business, Simon Sinek. I think projects should have a why, not the financial case. Nobody cares about the financial case except the CFO and maybe some shareholders. The people want to have purpose, and they will work harder. They will be more motivated to work on a project with a strong purpose. We're going to develop the new vaccine. Everybody will work 200%. Not we're going to make a return on investment of 20% on the new vaccine. You kill that project. We want to do something bigger. So in this case, it was about disrupting the market, simplification of technology. This is back to your point, Benjamin. We were talking about sponsorship. Great example of Steve Jobs. He spent 2 days per week for 2 years on the job, on the project team, taking decisions, being in the stand-up meetings, in the design meetings. He was actively participating. It was the future of Apple. He was spending 2 days per week. I've never seen a CEO spending not just 1 hour per week on their strategic projects, except when BNP took over Fortis. I was part of that, where Jean-Laurent Bonafé, the CEO, spent all his time just doing integration of Fortis. That was 100% dedication. It went very well. So that's a great example of great sponsorship. Fixed deadline. This is so important in projects. We need a deadline which is ambitious, which is stretched. How can you build a fund in 2 years? Well, they spent 3 years learning about that. The project was just 2 years. But we need that. That's where we get the best of it. When there's a deadline, when I talk to companies and say, what's your big net deadline? What's the next big deadline? I said, I don't know. It's just we have your yearly reporting, or we close the books every year. That's your deadline. People need inspiration by a very strong deadline. We're going to achieve that. We're going to do that. We're going to do that by then. That gives some kind. The other big thing that companies should learn, and I just get frustrated when I see companies of 10,000 people not being able to do this, is that they selected the best people, as you saw at the beginning of the question in this project, who wants to join. First, we want people to volunteer. When you appoint somebody, say, Roxana, as from tomorrow, you're working on this project. Congratulations. First, they didn't check with you. First, maybe it's a topic you don't like, but you have to do it. No, that doesn't how you get engagement for people is, Roxana, we're launching this project. The purpose is that, do you want to join? Mm-hmm. And if not, who could join? Who is passionate about finance or technology, but not appoint people. Sometimes you have to, because you don't get the engagement. So here they went for volunteers, the best people in the company. And one day say, well, I want to join. I'm ready for that. But who's going to do my day-to-day job? The blue part. I have a fixed job. I have my job description here. They said, Martin, don't worry. Somebody else is going to take care of your blue part. Somebody is going to do your day-to-day job. That's not too difficult. We have a bunch of people there who could be your deputy. When you're on holidays, you have a backup. They'll take care. I want you 100%, 200% in that building for the next 2.5 years. So they pull up highly talented people, volunteer into another place to work 100% dedicated, no disruptions on the next big thing. Why a company cannot do that? Why cannot do that? Why everybody has to work part-time on projects? This is one of the biggest things that I always get frustrated. And then you need to call consultants. They come tomorrow with 20 people and 10 juniors, so you train them as well. So why don't we have that flexibility? Why are we afraid of leaving that blue part, which we've done for 30 years the same way? This is something that has to change. And then I always talk about the priority of the projects. The top 3 to top 5 projects in a company will get done, struggle and so on. If you get good sponsorship, even better. The projects below that, if your project is priority number 25, forget it. It's not going to work. Stop it. Do something else. Okay, so these are very important concepts. I want to cover 4 quickly elements on how can you adapt and get better into this project economy. Okay?
Absolutely. Please go ahead, Antonio.
Okay, so we need to work on work on the structure. So we need to be more agile. Back to the point about shifting resources and playing differently sometimes. Simplification and focus. Why do we need to prioritize? Why is so important? The leadership components. And then I think every company needs to have an inspirational project. Otherwise, for me, those companies don't have a spirit, a heart. So about organization structure, I think by now you understand that most of the companies who are structured like this, they're deemed to fail. This is not possible anymore, where you have these hierarchies, and it was great for 80 years, the supply chain hierarchy, perfect, but projects need to have some flexibility. So what I'm saying is that you should be able to mix. Of course, you need to keep your business running. If you're Air France, you need to fly your planes and provide good services, but at the same time, you need to transform. So make sure that you give power to top 3, top 5 strategic projects, 100% dedicated resources, strongly sponsored. That's how you build agility in your organization. Not by working part-time in your project, not by having 100 projects, just by having 3, 5 big projects. That's where you bring agility. So that's one of the key things. In China, Asia, you see these business models already. You see this agility in the structures where people are empowered to do their projects with resources, and they're accountable of the results too. We'll see that later. So one is the agility. Second, I think based on what we talked, too many projects, too many priorities, too many objectives, I've been intrigued to research the power of prioritization. And I really had to dig, because I was hearing everybody talking about prioritization, but nobody could explain me why it's so important. So I'm going to tell you a true story about the company. It's working in the post. The post, this one is, I think was Denmark, but in the post, what happens is that, you know, the postal services, let's be honest, everybody, when was the last time you sent a postcard? Benjamin, Roxana, when did you, I don't recall.
Oh, Christmas.
Okay. Okay.
Christmas to some people that I'm very close to, and we enjoy that sort of exchange. But indeed, that is quite a valid question.
Yeah. So the business. I hope you sent one to Benjamin.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it. Well, not only, but yes, he was among them.
Okay, so we're not using postcard, Facebook, and all these things, WhatsApp. So the business of the post is completely drastically disrupted since 10 years. You have the UPS and the Amazon things. And so that company where Lisa was one of their employees working for 8 years, she loved her job. She was passionate, but she knew that the company was struggling, almost bankruptcy. They had 6 months to turn around the company. So the CEO of the company says, let's build a new strategy. This is the last chance we have to survive. And they have a big offsite meeting with champagne and caviar, nice chateau. They come back to the office and say, guys, they call a town hall meeting. Guys, ladies, we have now the solution. We want you. So Lisa was there and all the delivery people were there. The situation is very hard. We're close to the bankruptcy. We know we have 6 months, but we have good news. We have developed a strategy that if you manage to implement it, if you keep that in mind when you're doing your job, we're going to survive and turn around this business. First of all, I want that you focus on efficiency. I want that we do a bit faster our delivery. So instead of 5-6 seconds, we'll do it in 5. Second, I want that we smile more. We're here for the customer. If the customer is happy, we're going to continue our business. Efficiency, more volumes, customer. This is simple. Lisa understood. She kept that in mind. She loved her business. She wanted to do that. And I'm sure every company in the world has these too. But anyway, nothing new. So one day, the day after, Lisa excited. She knows what to do. She knows the strategy. She can help the company to survive. After the morning, in the afternoon, around 3:30, it started to rain a bit. And Lisa is walking to a house and the door opens. And the lady says, there's a lady, an old lady said, Lisa, come, I want to talk. So Lisa smiles, very happy, because she thinks customer satisfaction is going to be to her roof, not 80%, but 100. While she's walking to the lady, she thinks about efficiency. What do? If I sit and chat with the lady and she looks like she wants to talk a lot, I might spend 10 minutes. not 5 seconds. So what do? She's paralyzed. She's paralyzed. So I'm going to give you 5 answers, and this is coming in the poll afterwards. Let me tell you the 5 options. You focus on efficiency, ignore the lady. You didn't see her. It's a bit rude, but that's an option. Focus on the lady, on the efficiency. Tell the lady, listen, I call you later. I'm in a rush. I call you at 8 p.m. when I'm done. Or just do a small chit chat. Yeah, they open the restaurants in Belgium. Are you going there? And then run. Still efficiency, very important. Then just focus on the customer. That would be option 4. Just sit with the client. Voice of the customer is such a fancy word that everybody talks about. I wonder how many people have the time to do it, but would you spend 10 minutes with the customer? And last one, spend 10 minutes with your customer, listen to the customer, and then try to sell her the latest app from the post to track some goods. So here you have the options. It's very important that you decide the right one. The business is at stake.
All right, you can see them all popping up there, and take your time to read the options that Antonio has just gone through. We see that the votes are coming in, so I'll take a few more seconds. And I see a comment from somebody if it's possible to receive the project management canvas template and maybe a publication on it. You will have the template. I think it's included in the slide deck that we will share. And for sure, Antonio will be happy to share ideas of resources and publications that would help you. And that will be in the follow-up mail.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are you doing with the poll?
We're doing quite nicely at 65, 66%, a few more votes, and I think we can reach 70, which is always nice. If by any chance you have comments on the options, please drop them in the chat. And we see more and more questions already arriving in the Q&A box, which makes us happy. And we'll address them, Antonio, as you would like.
Absolutely. Let's close the poll.
Let's close the poll, indeed. And sharing the results. Let's see what has won.
Wow. Nobody cares
Nice, huh?
about efficiency in this call. How is that possible? How is that possible? We don't care about efficiency.
But we do care about customer satisfaction.
Yeah, but when I do this exercise, Roxana, in Switzerland or in Germany, and there may be 1,000 people in the audience, 1,000 people will raise their hand on number 1.
Is it?
It's all about efficiency.
Have you seen a lot of correlation between, you know, organizational culture, national culture, and these choices? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the highest answer is great. I think you are all a group of salespeople. Excellent. Congratulations. If you didn't know that, you know that now. You are talented in sales. There is a big majority leaning into the customer service. So it is good. Clearly comes from the survey. The point of the exercise is saying all the answers are correct because I left the choice to the people. And it should be like that. You don't want to create machines. But what happened with this company is that they went bankrupt because imagine I'm the CEO, I was not clear in prioritizing. These are 2 contradictory objectives. It's one or the other, and which is amazing because most of the companies have this. So when people have to decide, it will clash. So that was the biggest challenge is if we don't prioritize and say, well, listen, we're in a mode where we just need to increase volume. We need to increase revenues. And we do that through focus on efficiency. For the next 3 months, everybody focus on efficiency. Don't forget the customer. But when you have a trade-off like with the lady, you need to choose always for option 1 or 2. And that would have saved the company. Just that because I didn't manage to be so specific on the priorities, it didn't work. So good people, good strategy, people understand, but the lack of prioritization created this mess. And I'm going to give you another very radical example on the importance of prioritization. There's one airline company that if you fly them once, you never fly them again. Which company I'm talking?
I hesitate to answer.
Right, welcome to Ryanair. We are on time. it's not pejorative. I think I appreciate this company for the courage, for their strategy. And the thing was, when they came in, we were all used to service. We were used to Air France and KLM and Savannah, Brussels. And people will smile to you and yes, we can print your ticket and where do you want to sit and you want window or L or, and here is no, you don't get anything. We don't care about the customer. Our business is about efficient 100%. We will fly you on time and cheap. That's all. Don't ask us to smile or print anything because we're going to charge you. And it was a huge shock coming from a customer service to a purely low cost efficiency. Very successful, but in Ryanair, 100% of the employees, the CEO, everybody will choose answer one, efficiency. So that's why when there's decisions, everybody goes in the same direction. Very important for your companies, very important for your business, for your projects, that let people decide, give them margin, but let them which direction they have to go so that you can go faster and more aligned on that. The third big element, and I'm coming close to the end, what kind of leaders do we need? And I'm talking here project leadership, but I think it's general leaders, because if you see the blue part is gone. So what kind of leadership? I think the businesses of the future, you need some technical capabilities for sure, but what you're seeing coming from Asia as well is these end-to-end players, end-to-end leaders, leaders who can come up with an idea and be a bit entrepreneurs and do that part of ideation, design thinking, and then define a project, plan the project, make a good scope and plan and schedule, and then execute that. And then be accountable for the project deliverables, be accountable of the benefits. If we create a new platform, let's sell the platform. Why a project manager has to stop the project when it's about to launch and then do another project? There's nobody more experienced in what the project delivers than the project managers. Why we always stop at that moment? So the great project leaders and leaders in the future will need to deliver results. P&L, manage the team if you've merged two companies. So I think that's what we need. In terms of competencies, you need the technical skills. So we all need to understand basics on project management. I'm not saying you all need to be certified, PMP or Prince 2, but understand how to make a plan, understand risk management, how to estimate, how to manage a budget. Then you need the strategic and management. So masters like many of Solvay are great addition to or specific areas of focus. What we study in university tends to be one narrow area. So add some strategic and business management, and then the leadership part as well is self-development with support of coaching and additional trainings. That makes you the all-around player that we need. And I tell you, it's a gap in most of the companies. We don't find them because most of us have been trained to be good at one thing. And we need people that are good at one thing, but can run everything. That's the challenge of the future. And just want to finish about inspirational projects. And this is a story that touched me when I heard about it, when I researched it. And it's about the, let me go first, the race to space, 1961. US and USSR were competing to show the world we're the strongest, we're the most advanced in terms of research and technology. So we want to be the first. They were about to launch at the same time. Just the Russian went a bit faster. So 1 month only, 1 month. In April 1961, Yuri Gagarin was the first man in space and come back. And what happened is that right after, just 1 month later, you can see here, it's already in May. So 1 month later, John F. Kennedy comes, okay, we lost that battle. Let's do this big, big, big dream happen. So we want to bring the first man to the moon. And one thing crucial, like with the iPhone, by the end of the 60s.
Yeah,
if
by the end of the decade, yeah, before the decade is out, I remember this.
Before the decade, yes, exactly, Benjamin. Imagine if he would have never said that, I think we would have never been, never. We need deadlines as individuals. We need the challenge of the deadline. So he was killed, unfortunately, the year after. He never saw, but that created a big project, a big movement, probably the most important project in the 60s for the US. So in 1967, just 2 years before going to the deadline, and the deadline is in people's head and everybody's head, and we just see nothing progressing. There has been a lot of accidents. are we going to make it? So 30 journalists, they go to the NASA in Florida, in Cape Canaveral, and they spend the whole day interviewing and checking. They wanted to make an update and report to the world to see how we were doing. So they interview everybody, the chief strategy, the research officer, the VPs. And at the end of the day, they're just walking out of the NASA. There's one lab towards the end, computer lab, and they find this guy. And it's already in the dark. And they ask him, what's your name? And he says, I'm Mike Jimenez. And what are you doing here, Mike? And he says, I'm helping to put the first man on the moon. And he was like you see in the picture. But he answered, very convinced, I'm here helping to put the first man on the moon. He didn't
It's like
say
what you said on the vaccine. You know, you don't want 200% return on investment. You want to cure the planet.
Exactly. And the other thing, which is important, he felt he was contributing. He was cleaning the floor, actually. He was cleaning the lab. But by cleaning the lab the day after, he knew that the scientific people will do their job better. So it had an impact in performance, it had an impact in the project, maybe 0.00001%. But for him, that was so exciting and so proud. And we want people to be proud. We want everybody in our projects, in our companies, to say that I'm not working in finance or I'm working in marketing. No, you're working for this big dream. And then you fly, then you can achieve anything. It's just how to get there. And I think projects will help us. I think there's nothing more motivating and inspiring than working in a project that has an ambition goal, a higher purpose, and clear fixed deadline. I remember I talk sometimes with the Commission and parliaments and European institutions. I say, listen, the last time I was inspired by Europe was in the Euro, 2001. We felt like strong, united. We will create the one currency. We will travel. We'll feel like brothers and sisters. This is 2001. What have you done since then? Maybe, yes, you launched the Erasmus program before that. That's the second big project. But we need inspirational projects that we feel part of a goal, and working together, we can get better. And I think companies should have one. And those companies that have them, they excel. They have happy people, performing people. And that's what I think is the future. We need inspirational projects. And with that, I'm done.
Thank you so much, Antonio. And speaking of inspirational projects, and before we take up the questions that have been accumulating in our Q&A box, I'm going to launch a bit of a challenge at our participants today, at our audience. And I gave you there in the chat the link to a Mentimeter. And we invite you to go and share what inspirational projects you would like to make. And just the reflection itself, I think, is already a big motivational part for you. And it's interesting to make. What inspirational project would you like to be involved in and to manage? And with that, we're taking questions. So we have quite a few. I'm going to choose the first one from Ricardo, and he asks, Antonio, how do you apply your thoughts and experiences to the public policy, government affairs professionals who are usually generalists in the companies? It's a very specific one to a very specific types of organization and function.
Yeah, the public policy, government affairs professionals, it's a big, I do think that you hear more and more. I've been in a few big conferences for the policy, and the biggest challenge they have is policy implementation. It's not so much about the policy definition or a policy statement. It's more about the implementation. That's where they're having a lot of struggle. I do think that some politicians, they see the power of these projects. And as you can see, some of the biggest projects in history came led by politicians who were inspiration, who could see that. And you, I think, today, I think we have a big crisis around leadership in this space, especially. But one of the projects I researched, and because I found so interesting, was the reconstruction of Rwanda. Rwanda, you know, I think 1991 was completely destroyed, civil war, and they decided we want to get together. So it was a public policy project, reconstruction of the country, reconciliation of two big, and it was possible. 20 years down the line, people feel reconciled. When you see projects where it's more about destruction and splitting apart and egoism, and you can find amazing projects where people get together. So it's usually not the case, but I do think that once you have that, this power of engaging people and engaging citizens is so strong. And I always, every time I see a politician, I tell them, we need one or two big projects that will inspire us and make us better. But it's the exception, unfortunately. So I think there's a big room for improvement there.
Definitely. Thank you, Antonio.
You're welcome.
I'm having a hard time choosing between the very interesting questions. So I'm going to go with a provocative one from Claudio, who says, if it is very difficult to convince senior management about giving project managers power and accountability to lead people, what do we do? Should we change jobs?
I think it would not be the first choice. I think that might be a choice at down the end of the line. I think one of the big roles I see of project leaders, people working in projects, so far for the past 20, 30 years, project managers have been trained to look inward of their project. It's making the team inside, creating the cost and time and budget. I think the project manager of the future spend much more time outwards. And one of that big area is managing your bosses. So it's about, okay, boss, you don't know and you will not know now, but I know that if you're not present in the meetings, if I don't get access to you, if you cannot commit half an hour every 2 weeks to discuss the project, we better stop it. It shows me that you're not dedicated, you're not committed. I can have this discussion today with a CEO. That's my role. So I think you can play much stronger role towards the top and say, guys, this is what happens. Okay, I manage my team, but I need you. 30, 40% of the success is on you. You are accountable. So if you don't want, let's stop it. And I've done that a few times. Let's stop it. And they say, well, no, show me or tell me, how can I get better? So it's not going to happen all the time, but I think it's the time for us is to teach them and coach them and tell them, go to Solvay and have a master on how to lead transformations. And I know it's not easy, but I've seen change.
Definitely. The next question is a bit provocative for those of you who may be just like me, a bit of a control freak and a planner. And it's coming from Hosni, who says, is a plan B always necessary for projects? When we have a plan B, it means that we don't believe in plan A. So it's better to rework plan A. What do you think?
Great point, Hosni. Yes. I think you have different views there. You have a point, absolutely. Yes. Why don't we just keep reworking plan A and forget about B? I do think that risk management is a very important discipline. More a mindset. It's more a mindset part of the culture. Let's be prepared. If there's a big unforeseen, for example, this crisis, nobody knew. If some companies would have a plan B or a project have a plan B, that would have been a massive advantage. So I do think that you need to have that mindset where you think about projects and the risk and what can go wrong and don't cover all the risk. I completely agree. But if you have a big milestones, or for example, the graduation of your master in Solvay, and it's going to be outside. If you don't have, because we want a nice barbecue, and if you don't have a plan B in Belgium for an event outside, that would be a disaster. So yes, sometimes you need to have a plan B, especially for key events, usually the go live or there's where you need to do. I do agree that sometimes you spend too much time theorizing about risk and you forget about doing the project and testing. So there is a good sense on your question, Audrey. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I am having, again, a hard time choosing the most provocative one. So sorry, Antonio, but I know you can take it and you enjoy these kind of questions.
I like.
From Amir, I have, what kind of marriage do you recommend during this period between project managers and change managers, knowing their bitter history? It's
wow.
It's nicely phrased indeed.
Who put that question?
Amir.
Amir, okay. I thought you were asking me about marriage.
It's a metaphorical and functional marriage.
Okay. I do think that wedding, it's the perfect project because it's always on time. There's never a wedding which is late. Always on time, never 1 week delay or two. But anyway, to your point, I do think that there's a conversion. I talk projects a bit more holistic. I do recognize there has been a lot of friction and competition between project management, agile ways of working, agile scrum, change management, product owners. I think that what I'm proposing is a bit an umbrella. We as a project manager or project leader, I don't know how the name will evolve, for leaders of the future, we need to know the four. We need to know a bit of project management. Sometimes you need the structure and the discipline. We need to know agile, some phases of your project, some projects we need to do. We need to understand change. If you knock of the future of project management, technology will disrupt project management. 80% of what we do today in project management will also be done by AI. It will be part of the big change. So we're moving more into soft skills and leadership. So we need to understand change management. And then product ownership, I think it's also converging. We need to be responsible and accountable of what we deliver. So you might see some product owners coming to the project and project going into product and change management. But for me, it's all part of the same. And this is the skill sets that companies are looking for. Great question. So yes, it's a big marriage of this.
And it could be a bitter one indeed. Before I actually, as I promised in the chat that I would be sharing the resulting Mentimeter with your inspirational project ideas, I would like to take one more question from Pascal. And he says, do you need a project control tower organization, say a program office in a project controlled business organization?
Good question, Pascal. I think it's true that you need some control. There is a need. We are undisciplined by nature, except Roxana, which is very disciplined. But by nature, we are not. So yeah, you'll find people who like the structure, but most of us are so busy. We like to learn. So you need a sort of control. But what is you see in most organizations, the control is moving also into more mentoring and coaching and some kind of more added value approach to projects. So controlling will be done in the future by robots and artificial intelligence, also in projects, and checking out where you're spending your time and how the project is doing. So the PM tower will move into mentoring, coaching, advising senior leaders on which projects they need to do and force them to prioritize. You cannot have 100 projects. Bosses, choose 3. I know it's difficult, but that's your role. So we're moving from the controlling, which is needed. There's a bit of controlling there, to more coaching, advancing into, I would say, consulting, strategy consulting, change consulting, coaching. Thank you, Pascal.
Exciting times indeed for project management. Antonio, thank you there for sharing there also some resources as well. They would be including in the presentation that we will share back with you. If you don't mind, I will take back the control of the screen just to share the results of the Mentimeter, so inspirational projects that our audience have dropped in, and I would invite you to comment on them. They're quite exciting. So just a moment. And there we are. Normally, you should be able to see it. This is what our audience has put in terms of inspirational projects that they would like to work on. A purpose for the next generation.
Nice.
A Corona contact center.
Beautiful.
Combating poverty. Very, very, very umbrella, but always inspiration. It's, of course, the more you define it, the better. Sustainable mobility, affordable education. These are almost like desiderata and part of a vision, aren't they, Antonio? Anything strikes you?
No, I wanted to comment. These are very inspirational. One thing that inspirational projects have to give you the means to play a role. So,
Indeed.
For example, United Nations, they have this amazing, beautiful, but how can we contribute? If we don't feel that we can contribute, then it doesn't work. So I would say combating poverty, yes, but how can you work and how can I support that? And this is what I mean sometimes with disconnection. And I love it. Yes, I will vote for yes, but I will not be engaged. I will not be passionate if I cannot contribute. Nobody gets passion if you cannot contribute. So I love I want a copy of this, Roxanne, because
absolutely.
The people are very inspirational in the call. Yes.
And I will add this word cloud to the slide deck that we will be sharing. With that, I propose that we do not overstay our welcome. We can continue discussing for quite a while,
yes.
as always.
Unfortunately, the time is up. So, Antonio, on behalf of Solvay, I want to thank you for sharing your insight. Your promise is that we would get transformed and inspired, and I feel inspired and almost transformed. And at least I like this idea about making the connection between a purpose and then our little acts, little bits that we can contribute on, and how do we make it work? Because we have a good process. So that was really helpful. So thank you for inspiring us. Thank you for closing this series of webinars. To all of you who participated, thank you so much. We had over 600 people attending those webinars over the last few weeks. So we hope we make that strange period a bit more interesting, that we help you stay connected also. It's been a pleasure seeing you all. If we don't see each other live, I wish you excellent vacation. To those who study, good luck for your exams. And I wish to see you all back. And stay tuned for more live webinars. We'll be in contact with you. Roxana and the team, thank you very much. Antonio again, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take good care.
Take good care.